Welcome to Breaking the News. I'm Kent Erdahl in for Jana tonight. Nearly a year after an horrific act of political violence that left our state and nation in shock, the man who planned and carried it out stood up in federal court and admitted to all of it. Vance Boelter pleaded guilty to murder, stalking, and other charges today and confirmed the chilling details of what happened on June 14, 2025. The night Boelter murdered House Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, injured Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, terrorized their daughter Hope, and targeted others. It was quite the scene inside that courtroom today, and Lou Raguse was in there. And Lou, we can only see so much every time we have these images, these sketches from court. But I want to know, the plea changed today, but did you sense that Vance Boelter changed at all?
Well, that's a good question. I would say one thing it reminded me of is back when the Jacob Wetterling killer pleaded guilty, where you go in and you're not quite sure that he's going to do it until you finally hear it. And back when he was arrested, Vance Boelter was spewing a lot of conspiracies, just wild stories that he was recruited to be an assassin by Governor Walz, and it was this completely unbelievable story. And so to go from that to admitting all the details that follow the evidence and filling in a couple gaps along the way, that was such a remarkable change. And so that's really what made it, I guess, captivating to listen to.
Give me a sense of what it was like in that courtroom, because I'm sure it was full and likely full of some emotion as well.
Yeah, so there was the family members for the Hoffmans and the Hortmans over on that side, along with some other lawmakers who were there, including Kristen Bonner, who was one of the homes where Vance Boelter stopped. And thankfully, Jana did an interview with her about how, by chance she left on this vacation a day early and wasn't there. So it was very, very emotional for her to be there. And when they got to the moment where they talked about how he attacked the Hortmans, he had tricked Mark Hortman, shining the flashlight in his face, telling him that he was there for a welfare check. And he said, "Before I leave, I need to see your wife to make sure she's okay," essentially. And he said, Mark said, "Melissa, they need to see you." But then at that point, Mark started to get suspicious, and he said, "We don't know your name or badge number." And he made up a name and badge number, and then he said, "What department are you with?" And then Boelter hesitated and then said, "Maple Grove." And at that point, I think the Hortmans realized this was a phony thing, but it was too late. Boelter pulled out his gun, murdered them, and at close range shot Melissa Hortman. And that's when the audience in the courtroom gasped and cried out loud.
Such an emotional moment. And that wasn't the end of the day, because after court, you then got a little bit more of context into how this plea deal came together.
Right.
Anything we learned about that?
Well, we don't have a whole lot of plea deals that involve the death penalty in Minnesota, but that is the most ordinary plea deal on a horrible murder case, if the death penalty is available, is to tell him, "We're going to go to trial and you're going to get the death penalty unless you agree to automatic life in prison with no release." Like, that is a pretty standard deal. We just don't see it because Minnesota doesn't have death penalty cases. And so that's what they did. And U.S. Attorney Dan Rosen says that he believes if they had gone to trial with the death penalty that they legally would have won and they would have been entitled to it. But when you have somebody who's willing to avoid the trial, spare the families, and agree to just never be released from prison, it's hard to turn that down.
And this will now go to sentencing, and that will come quickly, correct?
Yeah, it usually takes many, many months in federal court, but in this case, they're going to get it done by the end of July, and that's where the families are going to come and share their impact statements. And hopefully, because Boelter will get a chance to speak here, hopefully he stays away from some of those earlier statements he made and gives maybe a little more insight into what caused him to become so extreme, in carrying out these things.
All right, thanks for being there today, Lou. I know you'll be there at sentencing as well. We'll be right back.